What's up, it's Cinema Shogun here, and the final report from the investigation into Bob Saget's death has been released. And as promised, I'm going to go over that whole report. I'll break it down, and I will react to certain portions of that report. But first, there is one key detail in this report that I really wanted to talk about in its own separate video, because I know that I need at least 7 or 8 minutes to talk about this one. And it's the fact that Bob Saget's room did in fact have an adjoining room. A lot of people have been asking, was there an adjoining room attached to Bob Saget's room? And that is indeed the case. But not just that. From what the authorities say, from what the investigation shows, that room door, that adjoining room into the next hotel room, was unlocked. It was unlocked. Now, they say there's no sign of foul play, there's no sign of any struggle, and that from what it looked like, there was no one else in that other room, and the room was supposedly vacant at the time. They don't have any records of keycard access happening during the time in which Bob Saget was there. So it appears to them that no one was in this room, although it was unlocked. Now, when I used to go on vacation as a kid with my family, we would often stay in motels, and sometimes they would have adjoining rooms. Like, whenever we could somehow afford to go to a Disney World, which was very rare, I think once or twice in my life, we wouldn't stay in like the expensive hotels on Disney property. We would stay in like a cheaper motel off of the Disney property somewhere in Orlando. And there would always be, or not always, but often there would be rooms with adjoining doors. Now, sometimes this was a good thing because we would be traveling with my aunt and my cousins, my family, and we would just go back and forth between each other's rooms. But sometimes, that wasn't the case. And I would always be so freaked out by those doors. Like, the first thing that I would do when I walked in the room was make sure that the doors were locked, that door was locked, the adjoining room door was locked. And then we would even put like all of our suitcases and our cooler and stuff in front of the door. That's kind of where we would pile all of our things. And I was always just kind of freaked out about it. Like, who's on the other side? Could they be listening to us, And even as an adult, I've had rooms like that before, and I never trust those adjoining doors. Never do. So the fact that this adjoining door was unlocked, it kind of sticks out to me because growing up, I distinctly remember that always, when I had a hotel room like that, the first thing I did was make sure that door was locked. Yet in this case, the door was unlocked. And I never remember a single time throughout my life where the door was ever unlocked, where the adjoining room door was just unlocked and I could just walk into the next hotel room. That never happened to me. Now, I'm sure that's happened to maybe some of you all. Of course, it's not impossible. People forget, we're all human. But never in my 30 years of living, out of all the times I've stayed in a hotel or a motel with an adjoining door, has that door been unlocked when I check into the room. And mind you, most of the places that I've stayed aren't as nice as the Ritz-Carlton in Orlando. So I would think that the first thing, there would be a emphasis on making sure this door was locked, because it's an expensive room. You often have high profile guests staying there, guests who want their privacy. I would think the first thing that the cleaning people would do, the maids, room service, what have you, they would make sure that this door was locked. Never in my life have I ever walked into a hotel room or motel room where the adjoining room door was unlocked. And like I said, I've stayed at way cheaper places than where Bob Saget was. Yet the adjoining room door was unlocked. So that's just weird to me. It sticks out because that doesn't often happen, especially when you think about this is the Ritz-Carlton. Bob Saget spending probably over $1,000 to stay in the hotel room that night. This is a place where a lot of people with money go. I'm not saying you have to be rich and famous to stay at the Ritz-Carlton. I'm just saying that I would expect a little bit better from them, especially considering that a lot of the, crappy ass motels that I've stayed in while traveling before, they always made sure their doors was locked, and the Ritz-Carlton didn't. But okay, someone made a mistake. But then I get to thinking, well, also, every time I ever entered into a motel room, a hotel room with an adjoining door, I always checked it myself. So we have an unlocked door here that somehow the Ritz-Carlton did not realize that this door was unlocked. And Bob Saget, I guess, did not check and make sure, you know. If I was Bob Saget, especially considering he's older, way more life experience, I'm assuming he's probably gone through crazier things than I have. He's also got a lot more money than us. He's also somewhat famous. I would assume that he would probably be more concerned about an adjoining door being locked than some of us. Some of us going there and like, okay, you're going to come through my adjoining door. What are you going to get? $20 out of my wallet? I don't care. Bob Saget, I think he would be more concerned about his privacy and his well-being. Why didn't he check the adjoining door? Why didn't he make sure the door was locked? Because if I were there, I get into the room, I would make sure the adjoining door was locked. I would feel like Bob Saget would have tried to make sure of that, one of the first things in the room. But of course, the door was unlocked. So here we have the hotel didn't take care of that, and somehow Bob Saget missed that as well. Yet they're just totally dismissing it like it's a non-factor. I think that's an indication that someone could have been in that room. And they keep saying, well, there's no signs of foul play and a struggle involved. And I'm just like, well, does there necessarily need to be a struggle? If someone could have been in that adjoining room just waiting, would there be a need for there to be a struggle? Couldn't they have snuck up on Bob Saget? I mean, judging by his injuries are to the back of the head. So whatever happened to Bob Saget, he wasn't facing whatever happened to him. So if he was attacked, he wasn't facing that person when they attacked him. They would have been behind him, correct? Because the injuries are to the back of his head. So I would think that you wouldn't necessarily see a struggle. You wouldn't necessarily see signs of a tussle or anything like that. Someone could have just came in and whacked him right in the back of the head. Also, I think there's a real possibility here that Bob Saget knew someone was in the other room. Maybe Bob Saget was meeting someone that was in the other room. Maybe there's a reason that room door was unlocked. And of course, we can't necessarily 100% trust the final report and the investigators to tell us the truth, because they could have some skin in the game and they might not want to tell us the truth either. And I mean, seeing this, it's like, oh, so you're admitting that there's an adjoining room and the room door was unlocked and all of that, but we can't look any further into the report because the report is blocked by the family. So we get a little bit of details, but we can't get the gist of everything that happened to Bob Saget and how Bob Saget was found, and all of those crucial details to really try to piece the pieces together to make the bigger picture clearer to all of us. So we know there's an adjoining room. We know he's got these injuries to the back of his head, but we can't look any further than that because the rest of the report is blocked. And that's why everyone's raising their eyebrows here. That's why I'm still making these videos. That's why you're still watching these videos, because it's still getting more and more shady every time we look into it. Anytime someone speaks up, John Stamos has said a lot of questionable things. The wife has said some questionable things. There were some very questionable things said in the days leading up to his passing. And now here we have this story where it's still unclear as to what happened to Bob Saget fully. Even the final report, like the beginning of the final report, lets us know that it is still unclear as to what happened to Bob Saget. And the story that they're giving just sounds unbelievable. And I find it really odd that right at the beginning of this final report, we get this information about this adjoining room and the fact that the door is unlocked, and they don't think nothing of it. Like, well, I think it shows that the room was vacant that day. Well, I'm sure there are ways to make it look like this room was vacant. I am sure there's ways, and the hotel staff or someone could get around that. And the fact that Bob Saget traveled all the way from Jacksonville late at night, all the way to Orlando to stay at the Ritz-Carlton, I'm not so sure that he wasn't meeting someone there. That there wasn't someone waiting in this adjoining room. Could it have been a love interest, a sexual interest, or something else? Who knows? I don't know. I'm just saying, I think that needs to be explored more. It definitely needs to be explored more. Because you have that, and then you have the injury to the back of his head. And they can't really explain how he died. They can't find a reasonable explanation as to how he died. Yet they can find that this room door was unlocked that literally leads to another room that was right next to Bob Saget's. And for all we know, someone could have came through that room while Bob Saget was asleep. And that's why you found him dead in bed. Bob Saget could have gotten attacked in his sleep and never woke back up. But I want to know your thoughts about all of this down in the comments below. While you're down there, hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button, ring that notification bell. And as always, whatever you do, never book another hotel or a motel room with an adjoining room unless you know the people staying next to you.